This video is going to help us review what we have been learning the past week. So you will need your review open in Ed and this screen open as well to see the video. And so we're going to do a couple practice problems, and then you'll pause the video and do number 1 on your assignment. Then come back and start the video. We'll do a few more problems together, and then you'll do number 2, and we'll repeat that for all 12 problems for today. So the word inequalities means the prefix of in means not, and the prefix, and then we have equalities, which means equal. So these are not equal to each other. So that's when we're going to use our comparing symbols, our inequality signs, to represent these statements. So if we have 5 and 3, the best thing to do is to think of these on a number line here. So here is 0, and I know that 5 is going to be in the positive direction, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And negative 3 is going to go towards the left in the negative direction, 1, 2, 3. So whichever number is farther to the right side is going to be larger. So I know 5 is greater than negative 3. So I need to make sure that open big side is facing the 5. So next we have negative 7 towards the negative side. So here's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, negative 7, and negative 2, 1, 2, negative 2. And even though they're both on the negative side, they are less than 0. One of them is still larger than the other. One more to the right is larger. So negative 2 is greater than negative 7. So I'm going to place it facing the negative 2 is larger. For our last one on here, we've got negative 6. I'm going to place that right in front of negative 7. And I also have 1 over here. So I know that when it's farther to the right, it's larger. So 1 is greater than negative 6. So I need to make sure my inequality sign has the big open sign facing the larger number. So now you're going to pause this video and do number 1 on your assignment, and then join me when you're ready for number 2. So one thing we need to remember is that integers are all whole numbers. So whole numbers are things like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sorry, I didn't stop putting commas in there. So all whole numbers, so no decimals, no fractions. This can go on and on forever. And it's also including their opposites. So we can also have negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. So every time you have a whole number with no decimals or fractions, whether it's positive or negative, that is considered an integer. So pause this video and do number 2 on the assignment. Hey, next up, we need to think about what is a positive number. So looking up here on the number line, I can see that all of these are positive because they do not have a symbol in front of them. So looking at these, I notice that these are all larger than 0. So positive numbers are going to be bigger than 0. And the opposite is true for negative numbers. If I look at all of my negative numbers here, so all of my negative numbers, I notice that they're going to be less than 0. So pause the video and do number 3 on your assignment. Next, we have numbers that are opposites. So we're looking here at opposites are the same distance from 0. So let's take a look here. If we have our number line with 0 in the middle, and if I count over 1, 2, 3 places to the right, and 1, 2, 3 places to the left, I end up with -3 and 3. They are both the same units from 0. It took me 3 places to get there. But they're going to be on opposite sides of 0. So 1's on the right, 1 is on the left. So take a second and see if you can think of 3 examples of opposites. So one I thought of was -7, and the opposite is +7. They're both 7 units away from 0 on opposite sides. Another one I thought of was 10 and -10. They're both 10 units away from 0, but on opposite sides. So see if you can think of 3 for yourself. One thing to remember is that if I had the number 10 and another number 10, yes, they're both the same distance away from 0, but if I graph them on the number line at 10 and I put another 10 on top of there, they're not on opposite sides of 0. So that's where opposites come from, is they're on opposite sides of 0. They're the same exact distance. So 10 and 10 are just the same number. They are not opposites. Opposites are on different sides of the number line. So pause the video and do number 4 on your assignment. Hey, so we need to think about, where do we find positive numbers? So we earlier discussed that positive numbers are always going to be greater than 0. And so they're going to go toward the right. Positive numbers always are on the right side. And negative numbers are less than 0. And so they are always going to be found to the left. So pause the video and do number 5. Number 6 is going to ask us to list 4 numbers that are greater than -6. So there are lots and lots of options here. We just need to think of 4. So I'm going to first start, and I'm going to graph -6. So I know it's on the left side in the negatives. So here's -6. And I need to find 4 numbers greater than -6. So I could list any of these numbers, and I could keep on going. All of those are greater than 6. And the other part asks us to list 4 numbers that are less than 2. So first I want to find 2 on my number line. So that's -2. Here's +2. And I'm looking for numbers that are less than 2. So I know I need to go toward the smaller left side. So I could name the number 1, the number 0, -1 is smaller, -2. I could even say that -8 is smaller. So I know sometimes we hear 8 and we'll think that 8 sounds bigger than 2, but because this is negative, if I have $2 compared to if I owe somebody $8, so even though $2 isn't a lot, that's a lot more than owing somebody $8. So 2 is greater than 8. -8 is less than 2. So make sure you plot them and think right is larger, left is smaller. So pause the video and do number 6 on your assignment. Now we are going to look at integers that have already been plotted for us on our graph, and we're going to identify them. So let's look for A here. So if I look here, I can see that A is -7. I can see B here at -1, and I can see C at 5 here. So pause the video and do number 7. Okay, number 8 says on Wednesday it was 70 degrees. So I'm going to mark 70 degrees and a W by that. And on Thursday, it was 51 degrees, and I'm going to mark a T by that. So I need to write an inequality, so a greater than or less than symbol to compare the temperatures. So I know that one temperature said that it was 70, and I'm going to compare that to 51. And just like on a horizontal number line, we can always find the positive on a vertical line going in the same direction. Going up is positive and down is negative. So the warmer it is, the higher up the temperature will be. And the colder it is, the lower the temperature will be. So I can compare and say that 70 is greater than 51 because it's higher up on the scale. So I know that from Wednesday to Thursday, the temperature got colder that night. So pause and do number 8 on your video or on your assignment. Okay, number 9, we have a diving board that is 10 feet above the pool. So out here, I'm just going to help us with a little picture. So here is our cement, and we're going to call that 0. And then up here, we've got a diving board that is 10 feet above 0. A diver dove off the diving board, so they're going down, and they touched the bottom of the pool here. So they went down and touched the bottom. And it says the bottom of the pool was 10 feet deep. So here I have another 10, but I need to think about that one. When I jump into a pool, I know I'm going down and I'm passing that 0 mark. So if it's less than 0, that means the bottom of the pool is at -10. So we're going to write 2 integers to represent the diving board. So I know the diving board is up above 0. So that integer is just 10. And I know the bottom of the pool is down below 0. So that integer is -10. What do I notice about the 2 integers, 10 and -10? Well, I notice that they are the same distance from 0. They each take 10 units to get there, and they're on opposite sides. So I noticed that 10 and -10 are opposites. Okay, pause the video and do number 9 on your assignment. Hey, now we need to identify the points and identify their opposites. So here we have point A is at -9. So I know A is -9, and its opposite would be 9 from the other side of 0, makes it +9. B here is at -3. So it's 3 units away from 0, 1, 2, 3. Then I need to go 3 in the other direction, 1, 2, 3. So its opposite is +3. And finally, we have C here, which is at 7. And then its opposite is 7 in the other direction, makes it -7. So go ahead and pause and do number 10. And notice when you do number 10, you're not actually having to, well, first you do need to find the first integer, but all you're putting on your assignment is the opposite. So if I was listing these on my assignment, I would just need the opposite. But we need to know where it was to be able to find the opposite. So pause and do number 10. Hey, Becky made 2 withdrawals from her bank account. So that means we are taking money out of our bank account. The first was for $39. So yes, Becky now has $39, but her bank account is $39 less. And then she took out a second for $67. So again, she has that amount. And if I just compared her first and second withdrawals, The second time, she took out more money. She took out more money when she took out $67. But if we're thinking about the integers that represent what happened, what she did is she took out $39. She took that away from her bank account, and she took away $67 from her bank account. Now we're going to write an inequality to compare these numbers. So I want to put them on a number line. So here's 0. So I know negative 39 has to go onto the negative side. I'll just stick that there. And if I'm counting, here'd be negative 1. Maybe I'll get a few on there. Negative 2. So I can see 3, 4, 5, all the way to 39. If I kept going, negative 40, 41, negative 42, negative 43. So negative 67 is going to be in this direction here. And anytime you have a number farther to the right, that means it is going to be bigger. So I can place my symbol here. So negative 39 is greater than negative 67. So I place my symbol with the big side pointing open to 39, the little side pointing to negative 67. So yes, she took out more money the second time, but she left her bank account with less money when she did that. So yeah, she got more money, but she also, that number took out more from her bank account. So it's actually less than taking away $39. Kind of tricky to think about. So use that number line to think about what happened there. So go ahead and pause and do number 11 on your assignment. Okay, last one for today is talking about the absolute values. So if we remember, absolute values tells us the distance from 0. So distance from 0. Let me move that so you can actually read it. So distance from 0, and the distance is always going to be a positive number. So here I have A, and I can see that it is at negative 8. That means it took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units to get to negative 8. So the distance for A is 8, and we represent absolute value with the 2 parallel lines on either side. So the absolute value of negative 8, so I write this down here. So we have the absolute value of negative 8 equals 8. Now we're going to do B. So I notice B is at negative 5. So I want the absolute value of negative 5. So I can see that it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units from 0. And we're talking about distance, so it's always, your answer is always positive here. Then I want to do C, and I'm going to find C, and I notice that it's at 4. It's just positive 4. And it is 1, 2, 3, 4 units away from 0. So whether it started negative or positive, our answers for absolute values are going to end up as positives. And then we also have D here, which is at 9. And the absolute value is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 units away. So if I were comparing just the actual values of these numbers, negative 8 would be smallest, negative 5, then 4, then 9. This might change though if I compare the absolute values. So if I take the absolute value of negative 8, I know that equals 8. which turns out a lot bigger than some of the other numbers here. So if I have these absolute values, so I'm going to take 4 and just list these out. And we have 9, and we have -8, and we have -5. So without the absolute values, this is your order right here. -8, -5, 4, 9. But once we add these absolute value symbols to it, it can change the order. So the absolute value of 4 is 4, which we figured out. 9 is 9. -8 is 8. And -5 is 5. So now if I put these in order from least to greatest, 4 comes first, then 5, then 8, then 9. So just something to think about, that the absolute value can change its when you're comparing. If you're just comparing the actual number, the actual integer, use your number line. But if it wants you to use the absolute value to compare, be sure you change them all to positive numbers. So go ahead and pause and finish up number 12 on, actually you won't need to pause. You can just finish this video. So finish the video and do number 12 on your assignment. And then be sure to finish up anything you need to do in Canvas.